Yes, the transfer window has just a couple of weeks to go, and that's what we're going to be talking about on today's video with Celtic legend Jackie McNamara and John McGinley as well. Jackie, we'll get straight into it. What's your overall thoughts on transfer windows? You've obviously had experience as a player and a manager as well. Do you like them?
Not really, no. I think, it wasn't too bad when you're a player, but when you're a manager, it was a nightmare. Especially when your players are linked to going everywhere, which obviously happened to me at Dundee United. Lost quite a few. So no, it can be really difficult to manage, especially when players are wanting away or being linked with moves, and try to keep them there and hoping for the window to close. So I imagine Neil will be like that just now.
I was going to ask you that actually, because and you make a good point. You had a United team that was chock full of players that other clubs wanted, including Celtic. Do you think Neil will be a worried man at the moment? Do you think he'll be biting his nails in these final few days that players like Edouard, Sham, and Ajer could go, and effectively you might not have much control over it if the offer's too good?
Yeah, I think that we spoke before. I think it's having the plan B. The last thing I think he'll want is not knowing and not being able to do anything about it. You're not getting a replacement. If someone does go, and I think that's why obviously you're building up that 6 months, which for me it'll be 12 months. I don't see anybody leaving in the January window unless they're not wanted. Because you want everybody this season. You just want the door to close and all the players that you want. So you're here for one more season. I don't care if you're not happy. You're our player until we say otherwise, and your agents can wait till next summer, unless, as I said, even if it's too good now in terms of the offer, you could still wait till next summer. It won't change anything for me. They're not as if it's the last chance to move them before they're out. They're too old.
Yeah, that's true.
Most of them are at an age that one more year won't make a difference.
So when you've got a squad of players that are wanted by another team, how do you avoid that inevitable offer? Is it a case of putting your phone on silent, do not disturb? Are you just waiting, and are you biting? You said biting your nails. I think you used that quote. Are you always worried you're going to get that phone call from, I don't know, is it your agent or your chairman or whatever, telling you that one of your players, a big bid's gone in and they're going to have to accept it?
Yeah, to say that it's not a nice feeling, and you're kind of helpless to do anything about it. At United, it was a January window. I'd lost 2 in the last 2 minutes to Celtic with Mackay-Steven and Armstrong. Because
Mackay-Steven was a pre-contract originally, wasn't he?
He's in a pre-contract, and and again, unbeknown to me, that the last few minutes, they came in and had done an agreement with Stephen Thompson, and he was away. And then Armstrong, I always knew that they were going to leave at certain times, but you want to do it as a manager's side. You want to do it at the end of the season so you can try and prepare, not the last few hours of the transfer window when you've just lost 2, you're attacking 3, scored you 20 plus goals a season. When you've got no money to go and change it, it's very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, you speak about it done in the last few minutes of the window. Is deadline day really that chaotic? Is it that fluid? Because it's all hyped up by Sky Sports and fans all love a deadline day. But what's the deadline day like? Is it truly deals are getting done up to the last seconds of the window?
Yeah. It's a lot of time it's pushed that way, because one clubs sometimes are too scared to put a bid in. Because as soon as the bid comes in, then they'll just we'll get more. If you're going to bid £1 million for somebody last week, so they want them, they're desperate to get them. They'll wait till the last minutes of the window, and they'll put it out there, and it becomes a bidding war. So it always happens. You see it all the time in the last few moments. Everybody's rushing through. They've maybe lost someone in the game before, and it's a panic buy. Or the fans demand it. I'm not a big lover of the transfer window. I think it should be open all the time.
Okay.
I don't think there should be a window.
It's probably quite good we've got you on actually, because you compare that Dundee United squad you have to the current Celtic one. They're similar in many ways. A lot of young players who will be wanted by other teams. Do you reach a point in the window where you have the conversation with your chairman maybe and say, whatever comes in here, like, I can't sell, I don't care if it's 100 million, I can't sell? Or is it always that 11.59 bid comes in and the bid's big, you always have to let them go no matter what replacements you have?
Yeah, as a manager, you don't have any say in it. It's business, and it's understanding that, and it's difficult to understand as a manager because you don't, you're not there to balance the books, so you're not there, and the players value different things. The players can only sign for so long, and sometimes when a player comes in, they'll use the club as a stepping stone to get to England, and you have an agreement, right? We'll be here for a year and a half, you'll be here for 2 years. Although the fans and everybody else and the manager, you don't really see that, but it's already been agreed. Like you'll come to Scotland for 2 years and then suddenly you'll be the next Van Dijk, you'll be, Dembele, they'll we'll bring you for 2 years. And then suddenly after the 2 years, sometimes say, no, we want you for 3 years, but that wasn't the agreement. So that's an interesting thing, but I mean, the club can only pay so much money as well. I mean, at Dundee United, it's a lesser extent. It's further down the ladder, massively down the ladder in terms of what you can pay the players and how you can keep them. If you sign a 3-year contract after a year and a half, suddenly teams come in to take them. So we're not going to renew that. So you need to maximise what you can get. They're never going to sign with you again. They'll just see the contract. The club gets snubbed. So it's just the same as Celtic, but a much higher level, a higher scale. But it's understanding that with the fans be happy knowing what they're promised when they come in, or how they can get them to the club, how can they entice them to the club, and that's the selling point. For a lot of them is to get them to England, because the money's astronomical. They're going £100,000 a week, and they just can't compete.
So it's interesting you speak a bit there about the kind of behind the scenes, perhaps informal agreements with players, because I seem to remember that's kind of how it went down with Dembele, or at least those were the rumours at the time, where he kind of alluded on social media that he was told by Brendan Rodgers that he could leave, and then it was kind of taken away from him and eventually forced to the move. Presumably, a little bit led by his agent. In modern football, what is the role of the football agent in these things? Are most transfers agent-led these days?
I don't think they're agent-led. I think that obviously the agent will. I mean, obviously that's my job, but I don't actively go and push players to leave or to there. Look after them if someone comes in and try and do it right in the right manner. I think it's both ways. The club have in the same way a club doesn't want a player. If for instance, they brought players in and they haven't settled at the club, it's led by the club to move that player on, and it's the same way the club wants another player at another club to come in. So it is a vicious circle, but it's part and parcel of the game. And as a club, you can only protect what you have for so long because of the length of the contract. If they don't renew the contract, so when it comes anywhere near the 2 year to go period, then they have to sell them because they lose out losing millions that they can reinvest in someone else.
Right, time for the fun bit. We'll give you control of Celtic, Jackie. We've been waiting for this. We're saying we're recording this probably a little bit prior to the video actually going out, so if anything drastic happens between recording and release, then you'll understand why Jackie's predictions may be slightly off. But we'll give you that chance now, Jackie. If you were the Celtic manager right now, you can give us names if you want, but more positions. What do you feel we need between now and the end of the transfer window?
I think we need. I think still need cover with ball and goalie going out. To help that side of any injuries. I still would like another winger Although it's different now because we're playing wing backs rather than wingers. You know, I think Greg's done really well on the left. I think he's got about 8 assists already since he's been there. But he's not a winger. The same side, Frimpong obviously got a little bit there in terms of getting there, but he's not a winger, attacking fullback. So it's difficult for them, but you'd have to change the system.
Yeah.
And I still think like games at the weekend, you could play a 4-4-2, no problem.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too concerned about teams having the ball because they don't want the ball. In the midfield area against, if they pass it through, you can still be compact in a 4 and allow because when he's played the 4-3-3 with the 2 wide men, it's still coming for the full-backs in terms of creativity. They're getting behind. You've seen it with the first game against Hamilton. The 2 full-backs providing the goals. Greg had 2 against Hamilton, and Frimpong actually scored one of them.
Yeah.
Because the 2 wide ones are going in. But if you had the 2 forwards coming in there and Cross come into the box, you've still got 2 strikers. You've got more than enough defensively. I don't see many teams wanting to play out through us in a 4-4-2. In terms of theirs, I don't know what else he needs.
Keeper?
Yeah, I think possibly a keeper. Possibly a keeper.
And
I've not seen enough of them. Sometimes you look assured and good on with his feet as well. Sometimes you kind of it's still quite early for him, And I think as I said, the Ferencváros goal was a poor one between El Hamad and the keeper. Possibly that position because you've lost two keepers in the summer. Foster and Craig Gordon was a bit of a blow leaving as well.
And what about outgoings, Jackie? If you were the Celtic manager, is there anyone in that squad you would perhaps say goodbye to? And that's perhaps a little bit harsh, so I don't mean it in that way, but is there anyone you would perhaps look to cash in on? Like there's interest of people sniffing around Christopher Ajer. Is he one you would look to sell?
To be honest, if it was the right money that they were talking about, yeah, definitely. If the lad's there, I think as long as he's got enough cover, or he can bring somebody else in, if there's injuries or different things, that's the only way I would let him out. But I wouldn't be too disappointed if he got someone else in and let him go at the right money, because again, as like I said earlier, when he starts talking day after day, and it's like Morelos every day. He's going somewhere else, and it's in the papers. Sometimes it's better just to move them on.
You're out, Colley in, John. It makes sense.
It's always seemed a bit outlandish to me. But Jackie's made good points, and I think what you said earlier about when players are coming to the end of their contracts now, Ajer, Cham and Edouard all have 2 years left on their contract, and none of them really seem like they're going to be signing a new one anytime soon, as far as I've heard. So big decisions ahead. If we're keeping 2 out of the 3, I would keep Edouard and Cham, and perhaps try and cash in at Ajer. But that's just me personally. I think that a lot of sports.
I think if they don't sign, I think they'll need to move them either January or next summer. But they'll only have a year to go. And that's the problem. If they're not going to re-sign with you, then they have to. The worst case scenario, they move next summer with 1 year to go, but you don't command the same fee at the club.
Yeah. Interesting times ahead over the next couple of weeks. Let us know in the comments if you've got any thoughts on anything we've said. Who would you like to see depart the club? Who would you like to see us sign between now and the transfer deadline? We'll be back with Jackie later on in the week. Until then, take care and hail hail.